Hello everybody and welcome back to the final block of Week 10 of Stage 2 of the Quake Pro League. My name is Ketchup and I'm joined on the desk by ZSX. One final series, Rapha and DaHanG.
Yes.
We've been here so many times before, but with Stage 2, this is the first time we've seen them clash in a competitive setting since then. You know, the round-robin system of everyone play everyone. It's all about just trying to build up to that final question of Rapha is at this point he's always been the best of the Americas, right?
Yes.
But it has just become more and more prominent as the stages go on. DaHanG has been able to conquer him in tournament before. I guess the question is, can he do it again before we go to the LAN?
Yes, but no, is my answer. I think he 100% can. I just don't expect him to. He's an amazingly skilled player, somewhat underrated on the global stage because he's not flashy, I guess, but he does everything right. He has some of the best fundamentals of any player, and the way which he thinks about the game is just everything is founded on timing, and so you can see he is extremely calculated. But then so is Rapha, so they kind of counter each other to a certain extent. And when he's on form, yeah, he has just a great rounded skill set. Like, not the best at any one thing, but just great across everything.
I want to say a personal shout as well, Marky. The little sort of like Quake 2 edge in DaHanG's theme music is like 10 out of 10.
I didn't even...
It's got like a real Quake 2...
I didn't even hear the music, I'm not going to lie.
I do. Even every time they play, I'm in. And if you ever listen to DaHanG, there's like a real Quake 2 vibe to like... I think it's the guitar tone. I'm not a music creator, so I don't know the lingo, but like the sound, the samples, is it? Yeah, there's like terminology for it, but I feel like with DaHanG, there's like a real Quake 2 vibe to it. I don't know if I'm alone in that when I listen to it.
I'm just tumbleweeds right now, I think.
It's late. It is late here in the UK. But up next, though, Rapha. What can you say about Rapha that hasn't already been said?
Great hair.
Million times over. A million times over. He's just, he's the professor, right? He's got that name for a reason. He just studies the game to this insane degree.
The one thing that's been most impressive for me with Rapha in recent times is his aim. That was what traditionally let him down to a certain degree, particularly in Quake Live. And I think I might be wrong here, and apologies if I am. I think he's changed his sensitivity, maybe taken off acceleration. I know he used to have a super high acceleration, but everything just seems much more consistent. And some of the shots, particularly on his rail, have been unbelievable. So that has been the biggest step up for me in terms of what I have seen. It might be that it's just in Quake Pro League, and maybe when it gets to a LAN setting, it might not be as great, but it's been really top notch.
Rapha was very much in Quake Champions one of the first players that it's kind of like, well, I guess we can almost you can refer to Rapha and DaHanG as a kind of entity with some of these points because they're against each other now, and it's all about celebrating just how good the two of them are at the game collectively, where I think the two of them really pioneered and inspired a lot of the rest of the scene to take the training regime, and it's a training regime. It's not just grinding for tournaments and becoming a better player was not just a matter of playing for 12 hours a day. It's this extra layer that Rapha and DaHanG they approached it with a different mind. It's about match VOD review, like just...
Particularly Rapha, and I think he's well known that, at least back in the day, he wouldn't play more than one set of maps against any one opponent because he would adjust his style way too much to adapt to that person. And so just simple things like that just reflects the way in which he understands the game on a deeper level. And yes, it's personalized, but not many other players would have thought like that before, I think.
So we should have the picks and bans for the final time tonight. Ruins of Sarnath first. That's going to be DaHanG and the
No!
What's on your mind?
Keel!
Again?
Why?
But it's Rapha!
I don't care.
Rapha's got a good keel.
I don't care.
But I also say Ruins of Sarnath being DaHanG's pick. Rapha with the Strog and Pika. It's rude.
But what's interesting is actually, all the picks are really, really interesting actually. But the keel on Awoken, I'm actually interested to see. That's an unusual one for me.
You'd normally see that in free for all.
Exactly right. Yeah, just running face first at people. I think the rest are pretty standard. Stroke and Peekers, all pretty traditional pick on Rowan Sarnath. Ranger, very good at the verticality on that map. And finally, Corrupted Keep, BJ and Galena are the pretty much 2 meta picks for that. You've got the amazing dual wield capability on the infight, as well as Galena, which is the totems work really well on Corrupted. So yeah, the rest are pretty standard.
Ruins of Sarnath, historically a good map for DaHanG.
Yes.
It really is. Some could say it's his strongest map. That he's historically done very well on this map for just a variety of different reasons. You know, he used to be super successful on these maps because whenever you talk about DaHanG, you always kind of have to bring up the idea and the fact that DaHanG is quite the innovator with specific champions, and he used to just be this really kind of like creative mind of taking a champion that really works on Ruins and applying it to Ruins, and those kind of 2 things hand in hand would make him so insanely hard to play against, and it had great results historically in Quake Champions. And
yeah, we've seen a lot of different champions come out from him on there. I remember seeing Slash like tearing it up on Slash from there a couple of weeks ago. But across the board today, I'm really interested to see. We've seen a lot of Corrupted Keep, and previous weeks I haven't seen a lot of it. So it's one of my favourite maps. So I just wanted to say thank you guys for picking it today.
Well, we're going into the this element of. I remember Stage 1 finals where the second you start seeing more maps come about, and then we start seeing the different maps and different champions that were picked, because out of the pick ban kind of style that goes through for Stage 1 finals, there were a lot of champions that were kind of like the ones that were left.
Yeah.
So we would see players that would, in a more sort of concentrated amount of maps and games to win, would never go near certain champions, and then by the end of the rotation, if we reach that point of the game where loads of champions have been picked or removed, you're kind of just left with like the rest of the champions that you don't really care too much about.
Sure.
So, and it would really put these kind of like sort of like oddball picks that you would never expect to practice. And it's like the final test to really. Yeah, that is a rattly. There's a stormy weather today.
If we like
stormy,
go
man.
Quiet mid broadcast is because this shack has fallen down.
The roof has just gone whoosh, like an episode of The Simpsons or something. Just whoosh, hurricane.
I'm gonna have to be holding it up with my bare hands mid broadcast. I think it's.
Yeah, I mean we say storm. I know a lot of other parts of the world get worse storms than us. For us, it's just really windy. A few bins fly over.
Yeah, a little bit of wind.
It is just really windy, and a few bins will fly over.
But we have a red alert on weather today. So, I mean, your train got abandoned midway.
I had to get a bus here today because of the trains weren't running at all.
Britain at its finest.
A really early start for me. It was
Brexit.
No, that's no comment from me. No comment. No comment. We should be loading into the first map very, very soon. Thank you for joining us all so far. This was, just to remind everyone, this was the final week for Quake Pro League. The Stage 2. It's been a long time, 20 weeks now, and we're just about halfway. It's been a long time, isn't it? There's been a lot of online weeklies.
I've aged so much in that time.
Well, we're starting things off, checking out Rapha. And we're going to see what the first play is going to be. Ultimate speed, just try and get that light armor on deck. And now, yeah, DaHanG's just inches away. But so far, Rapha hasn't got a lot of weapons. I think he's actually trying to stay somewhere out of sight. He's only got a rocket launcher, so.
I think the thing we haven't pointed out, and I know it's self-obvious, but the amount these two play together means that when you get into these kind of competitive settings, you do have that element of doubt in your mind, because you might double back or try to predict what they will think you will be doing. So it becomes an interesting mind game because they know your playstyle inside out. Nice.
Immediate trap sprung, but not a huge amount of damage. Rapha
wow.
can still work with it.
All right.
Beautiful combo from
Game
Rapha.
on.
That's a great way to start it. He's just looking to jump down. DaHanG already had that play in question.
He did steal the armor, which means he had enough just to sneak out of there in time and get the frag.
But yeah, DaHanG, I think maybe in some cases reluctantly forced to go into the under section there for the health bubbles. A lot of players don't really like going down there. Hard to escape, especially without a dire orb actually. DaHanG's not going to be crazy comfortable there. The stage. There's a lot of respect whenever you watch DaHanG and Rapha, because they are immense training partners. They play each other all the time. So you can expect, even down to the smallest micro decision, there's going to be a lot of thought coming out here. It's rare that you get two players that know really the ins and outs of each other's gameplay the way Rapha and DaHanG know each other's styles. It's immediately sprung. DaHanG just doubling back. Oh, that's a double whammy. Damage and teleport. Thank you very much. And the heavy. DaHanG giving himself an element of control. A nice stack. Mega's just about to appear here. See if he can get some good LG, looking for the rail shot. But it's one of those odd peaks where you're trying to just get a rail shot, but you don't want to give as much of an angle up as you can. So, DaHanG, if you hit it, fine. If not, well, we're still in a good position.
Yeah. Still remaining very calculated, neither one looking to overextend. Pretty happy to trade major items as much as possible, although Rapha does drop down aggressively. Has plenty of time here to deal some damage, but not hitting any rockets this point in time.
Not going to teleport. Rapha confident. There wasn't even a second he hesitated to turn there.
No, I think DaHanG was waiting to the very last second to move to that orb, but did die just before he was able to.
And there's that light armor. Rapha trying to keep himself a little bit topped up. DaHanG finally does manage to get to the scene, but it's just inches too late, I think. Not really enough to force Rapha away. Heavy is going to get taken by DaHanG, but as long as Rapha just keeps his distance and can just pepper out a couple of shots, it should be fine. And there's going to be the immediate rail, and that's going to undo a lot of the hard work built up from the heavy by itself. And oh, that tri-bolt, that hurt tons. And Rapha, the luxury of the Mega to retreat back to, making the rail not so bad. DaHanG not having the same luxury.
No, I forget how much tri-ball hurts sometimes, but does an immense amount of damage if you hit them direct.
Stopwatch.
But Rapha is tanked now. And Rapha's one of those players actually that uses the tri-bolt to pretty great effect. We saw Alec earlier in the day using it, but apart from that, barely touched throughout the day. So definitely a weapon that's not had maximum potential from a lot of the scene just yet.
No, Rapha's not super shy of it.
No, not at all.
But the difference between DaHanG and Rapha here when we're watching them is, like, even though they have similar stacks across here, the difference of control is that Rapha, when they have those, eventually, you know, the inevitable rail fights come through, Rapha has a major item to fall back on, DaHanG does not.
Yeah.
It's just about that constant positioning where Rapha is picking his angles really carefully, and DaHanG a little bit too predictable in his retreat here to the light armor. Rapha was more than ready to go in for the kill for that one.
Yeah. And the good thing about Strog and Pika is that you have that sliding capability to capitalize upon weaknesses or lapses in positioning. So that Rapha did that to perfection just there. The other great thing we've seen from Rapha at the moment is using that speed to get in positions to hit rails early.
Missed shot.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's fortifying himself near the heavy. You know, it's the second the rails don't hit their mark, it gives DaHanG a lot more freedom to kind of go where he wants to be. Rapha has been more than content kind of just sitting in the center of the map, listening out when need be, and if not, just constantly looking for rails that keep DaHanG crazy uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And this would be a good win for Rapha. And this is a good map for DaHanG. He's historically been really strong on it. Now DaHanG is really trying to fight his way back. He has the Mega, but at what cost, you have to wonder. Looking for more rail shots. Rapha doubling back, gets two in a row. Good shot there, 4-1. And this lead just continuing. Hasn't needed the Pika really at all.
No, yeah, I don't think he's used it. He could use it here. He could drop down and use it if he needs to finish him off, but decides just to spam him out instead.
Yeah, where are you going to run, mate? Where are you going to go?
DaHanG does get on the heavy armor now, so...
Ooh, my!
Doesn't deal a lot of damage, but does enough. But Rapha, obviously perfect timing, knows what's up.
Doesn't even need the small health shards that were dropped. You know, a couple of deaths that took place near Rocket. There was a little bit of actually armor lying there to be taken, but it's time. Time Rapha would rather spend keeping DaHanG behind. DaHanG, he's in a difficult position now. As you can sort of really see what's going on here. Rapha has spent the entirety of this map in the center, and DaHanG's been kind of forced to retreat round the outside, just getting whatever kind of scraps he can get his hands on.
Yeah, he's had really no look in whatsoever since the first frag of the game. Done a great job, Rapha, of securing all these major items. And what Rapha does, or has been doing particularly well on this map, is that securing job. So making sure that it's completely clear and DaHanG's nowhere to be seen.
That was a really good angle.
Yeah, I've never seen that before.
The Professor always has surprises, and this is the first time we see Pika. Oh, managed to juke the rail.
Nearly
but,
got some damage.
So far enough away, and actually looks like that rail was able to knock DaHanG back down into the lower levels. And is he weighing? Happy to concede the Mega at this point. He doesn't really care if it. Whenever it comes up, I don't think Rapha's going to be too fussed about it with 2.5 minutes left to go. It's going to take still, 8 seconds until it's up. Rapha again in a good position to take the Mega when it finally appears.
Sure. It's a really, really tough job now for DaHanG. He needs to get a frag in the next 10 to 20 seconds to get back into this, just because of the fact that it's so difficult to catch Strong.
This really has been the Rapha show.
Nice, really
at the end of the day.
nice.
Yeah, just a nice little bit of extra damage.
Exactly, he's just done enough to force DaHanG back, not to be confident, to try and pressure the heavy armor. And that's all you need to do at this stage of the game. Like, if you've got that lead advantage, you don't need to commit for kills. Do enough just to chip away at your opponent, because then they have to take the risk to force the issue.
And from this point, Rapha, he doesn't even need a frag. Just keep DaHanG behind, go in for the kill when need be, like right now. Easy pickup.
But that's
7-1. I mean, yeah, this map's basically as good as done.
But that's what Rapha does so well. He understands when to push that, and it's a common criticism, sometimes not criticism, but observation that Rapha is defensive, quote unquote. But he's not. He's just well positioned.
He's careful, surely.
Careful, but he will always push if the situation deserves it.
Oh,
that was nice.
Oh,
okay.
Where you going, DaHanG? Get back here. A minute warning. This map was over 2 minutes ago at this rate.
It was indeed.
With just how things were going. This has been the Rapha show.
DaHanG hasn't got a look in.
Absolutely. He's not been here at all, really.
No, and for someone who is... DaHanG does like to pressure items. He likes to come to the map. He loves to play around the items. Rapha has not let him do anything.
Uh-oh, the Hyper Blasters. It didn't even take the Kamikaze for that one to go down. And Rapha, he's only used the Pika when he knows there's a really good chance it will secure something important. He's not been using it willy-nilly. And another pepper down DaHanG. This has basically just been a map of, okay, Rapha, you win.
Yeah.
I feel like the other maps are going to be a lot more impactful here because he just hasn't been allowed to play this game through the entirety.
Again, he's looked relatively helpless just because of the way in which Rapha's played, which is just simple but perfect.
He's going to get another final frag here, making it 12-1, and that's a dominant way to kickstart our final series of the day. Rapha taking that in convincing fashion.
Yeah, more so, really. Particularly when you consider what DaHanG is third in the world now on the leaderboard, and that was a day and a routine day in the office for Rapha. Over 1.2k damage surplus. That's like, what, 30%, 40% additional damage for Rapha? It's just... He made it look easy, which is impressive.
And it was almost an entire map of... You very rarely see this work from a start to finish standpoint, where Rapha, it was entirety in the center of the map, just hitting rail angles. When he knows to go in, he's got the movement to do it. The orb really had no bearing in anything there. We've spent all day seeing the Dire Orb be a really important part to fights, to mobility, to just setting things up. And it may as well have not really existed in this map. It almost feels like we looked at two different champions.
Yeah, for sure.
Two different types of ranger, in effect.
Coming off the back of Cooler and Kilson, we talked a lot about how both of them put significant pressure on major items, even to the point of sacrificing their lives. Didn't see enough of that from DaHanG today, which is unusual because it's something he would traditionally do. So I would credit Rapha for just having a lot of pressure around the major items, and we spoke a little bit during the game of how he was taking a lot of care to secure major items. So what Rapha was doing well was doing sufficient damage in between the split of the major items to mean that DaHanG was never confident to push it. So ultimately, yeah, it was just credit to Rapha for playing They just put the clip on just because we liked it. That's nice.
I mean, yeah, fundamentally, though, it's just Rapha. It's crazy efficient play, and
look,
then with extra flair. Those small details.
Just look at these kills. He is pressuring DaHanG outside of the major items. So, yeah, it's definitely credit to Rapha for not letting DaHanG get on the map.
Yeah, and a lot of these frags, too. The use of the Pika was impressive at the same time. Kind of somewhat unorthodox use, where if you were to compare it to DaHanG's Pika, for example, it's like heavily based on the kamikaze, and it's used a lot more regularly, where it's like this extra element. Rapha got a lot more benefit out of the blasters there.
I was going to say, he was like mid-air dodging, not just, you know, as you rightly said, not kamikazing in to explode. So
well, he knows in that situation that he has lots of stack, and you have to deal with the damage. Otherwise, if you just go for him, you're just going to get killed.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, that for me feels like Rapha with just a massive understanding of DaHanG, and he knows DaHanG's going to respect it. You know that someone's going to sit there and they're going to have to divert attention because they play together so many times. You just know you're going to see stuff like that because in a tournament setting, you know, sometimes you've got to bring the cat out of the bag. You've got to just do something different than you do in scrims. Yeah. Not to say, you know, I don't know how often he actually uses that against DaHanG, but...
don't know. But either way, we've got Keel now on Awoken.
Your main man.
My boy.
But on Awoken, that is, I think, the difference. That you do see Keel picked, but it's normally on small maps that are very kind of corridor heavy.
Yes.
You used to see it on the Blood Run.
No,
see it on Veil, the most popular.
I completely understand the logic behind the pick. It's not a very common pick on Awoken, at least not on the pro scene. But again, I completely understand the logic behind it. And both, I remember we saw DaHanG play it on... I think it was Veil. He absolutely tore up with that champion. So we'll see what Rapha does with the big man.
We're going up against the Ison. Ison we've actually seen do wonderful work today, in fact. There's the opening rail again. Rapha scoring the first kind of major shot, and there's the immediate check where he knows that one rocket and grenade combined will just take out a turret, and oh my. We're going to see a lot of these, but it's Rapha kind of nose down to the maths how much it takes, and this should be another one. Yep, there is a trick that some players can do. They kind of just flick the ability and the rocket at the same time, so you fire a grenade and a rocket simultaneously. Yep. If you've got the right angle, they will both collide at the same time, and the damage is insane. That was cute. Looks like Rapha's played this champion on this map a couple of times before. But you can see why. There are so many situations where you would fight something that's like enclosed spaces that the grenades will become extremely obnoxious on. The area denial of the grenades, and in this matchup in particular, using a grenade just to delete a turret. His rails have been nice today.
Yeah.
Not to jinx him, as right as I say that, he does miss one, but... yeah, another element of that. Spamming grenades through the window. Doesn't necessarily need to cause rocket ammo anymore for the same kind of job, really. And some excellent rails coming out from DaHanG. Rapha still going to soak up a couple of rails before he's going to be killable, though. Even now, as he's got the armor, he's now having to contest rail fights 1v1. What's he doing now? He's setting up. Is he confident? There's the trick. It's just one rocket and one grenade is enough to take out a turret, and he knows that. So he can take out a turret faster than probably most champions with minimal attention being diverted. DaHanG does manage to score a rail, though, at least. And he's going to get the turret back in due time. Just about to get some all-important rail ammo, because he did just run out. And he has a much bigger stack. Oh! That rocket certainly doesn't tickle, though. No, DaHanG's looking for the next play. Misses the rail, unfortunately. He's looking for it, though. A almost even split on the Mega and Heavy. It's actually a rare sight for Awoken. Often there's a pretty big divide in between the two. And just shy of a rail. There's the turret. Hello. Oh. And with the information he was granted, the rail coming out. Now, how does Rapha retreat? He did collect a couple of the small pickups in the first place as he comes across here. The objective really is just control this Mega at the very least. He plays around timing so heavily, it's understandable that he would probably have elements of a timing for the Heavy as well, even though he didn't collect it. Oh, he's looking for the rail angle, but Rapha stuck around just a little bit longer. He's trying to head him off, and he's trying to pincer him. This is one thing you can do. You know that the Heavy champions, Keel more so, the limited movement You can somewhat kind of keep the chase on, but
It's
it's all about those defensive grenades.
tanky.
Yeah, you're very rarely in a position to go in for the kill. And Rapha is dishing out these defensive shots.
Ouch! That grenade just hit.
Yeah, it depends on where Rapha spawns, because even with that, DaHanG is pretty tender.
Oh yeah, Rapha knows that's why he's pushing. But as he sees he gets away, backs off.
Oh,
Grenade!
area denial. And hang on, Rapha. I think he smells blood, to be honest. He knows the Mega's in sight, but
Yeah,
DaHanG is so weak.
there's so many strong corners to protect. That's why obviously rocket spam is key here, but the grenades double the effectiveness of that. So it's another key reason. There's obviously lots of maps where you can, where the major ice mill that don't have such strong corners, if that makes sense, right? Things like, I don't know, Blood Covenant, where if you're trying to protect red armor, it's such an open area. Whereas in these areas, you have to always enter through a choke point. And that's why, look at the grenades there, you just can't get in.
And if you do, you're sacrificing a ton of damage just to try and take an item which is going to simply stop the bleeding rather than give you a significant advantage.
Exactly.
I've got to say, DaHanG's defensive shots have been really good for the past minute or so, though. That said, a rail has come through, and if Rapha lands just one, he's going to be in a great position here.
Absolutely. No, but DaHanG is doing a much better job relative to last game of getting on the map and asserting himself. That's what he was not able to do whatsoever previous game. So this is more like the DaHanG we know. Oof.
Oh dear.
Oof.
That one hurt, for sure.
Just taking damage from places he can't even imagine. Right, Rapha has got him twisted around his finger at the moment.
There's only one frag difference, but Rapha can create that divide much happier with a stack like this. And now there's actually a divide. This is one of the first times there's really been a delay in between the two items. Now DaHanG is taking a lot of damage.
He's so trapped. If he gets out of here alive, it's a miracle he does, though. And pretty
Rail
healthy.
shot. He's out. He is out of there. But while at the same time, hang on, Rapha, he's not content taking the item yet. He knows he's going to be uncontested. Ooh. This might actually allow DaHanG to somewhat steal the Mega.
Mega's
No,
not
it's
up
been
for a
taken.
while,
Yeah, he doubled back. He doubled back. Never mind. I missed it. It looked for a split second. I was looking at the screen. It looked like Rapha had pushed ahead to try and damage Rapha and then go back and take the Mega, but obviously not.
Oh, he's got such a good read on where DaHanG is.
And now he's in a position where he can.
Yeah, there's such a solid split that DaHanG needs to deal some serious damage in and around this heavy if he's going to break the tempo now. But again, there's no urgency saying that. However, DaHanG can sit back if he needs to. Still 3-2, plenty of time remaining.
But just look at the stack difference at a 6. It's immense.
Yeah, stack difference, area of denial difference. It's very difficult for DaHanG to push into any of these areas, particularly when Rapha's got such a good read on the movement of DaHanG. He hasn't caught Rapha on surprise pretty much ever so far.
Rapha just making himself hard to crack into.
But you can see
not a lot of this map left.
Wherever Rapha goes, he's extremely careful. He's always spamming out any potential angles that DaHanG has. He's one of the better players at doing that, to be fair.
Here's the attack. Grenades potentially in play here if he lets one rip. This is the rail, but DaHanG, it's about disengaging and trying to get the stack back. DaHanG rarely kind of overstays his welcome for the sake of getting a frag. He does really take that from Rapha in a lot of ways, where they're both extremely careful players. It's just Rapha's been so crazy efficient at that for so long, he's kind of almost the master of that style. And now as the heavy comes through, Rapha for another time denies it. Tries to deny just in case, and he's going so fast on the rail to answer back. DaHanG is in trouble.
But he's out of position for this Mega. That rail's good, but probably not enough. Particularly since Rapha...
Whoa! Thank you, Armor, for keeping him alive. He has to prioritize Mega.
But he's done that damage now, and there's 2 minutes remaining. So his heavy armor fight is going to be critical, but DaHanG hasn't had time to stack up. That's really painful.
you feel like the speed of the grenade rocket combo has also made the mid-fight turret kind of redundant because you can take it out so quickly.
It's true.
It isn't establishing any threat. Rapha sees it and he has the exact kind of one-click strategy to just remove it from play, and it hasn't got that kind of 2v1 purpose that it would normally serve.
No, it's true. Plus, you're extra tanky, so even taking a slight few ticks of damage isn't the end of the world. But it's a good point in that you can just delete it. But Rapha's just getting on major items now pretty cleanly inside DaHanG. He is buying time, but it is ticking away. Needs to make a move at some point, but now, again, not going to be able to get onto the Mega. He's half a second late, and Rapha is gone. And he hits a rail. So DaHanG comes off much worse out of that exchange.
And he can play this defensive style for just 1 minute longer, and he's going to get the victory here.
I mean, all it takes is one more round of major items. Once this picks up this heavy, he doesn't even need to go for the Mega now. He doesn't want to.
Yeah, all pressure's on DaHanG. Can he make chase? Rapha has been just eluding him the entire time. He does manage to get the rail. Rapha, a little bit eager to deny the Mega in this situation. Here we go. There's one rail. Has to be able to chase it down though. 40 seconds to make it happen. The Mega has been taken, but there's no armor. Is there going to be a light back there? Not sure I can quite clock it.
Oh, he's stuck.
Oh, no!
Oh, is he
What's
seed?
going on? Oh, Rapha.
What was
Rapha!
that?
That's good guy DaHanG. That's what that is.
What?
That's good guy DaHanG. He totally let that rock. Good guy DaHanG. That was on a silver platter. But Rapha was clearly having some kind of weird, I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, I thought he was stuck on the wall, but I guess he had just gone completely limp.
Well, that is going to be a map loss for DaHanG. But due to an issue that had nothing to do with DaHanG, that was, I think, just that was good guy energy right there. That was a frag on a silver plate, and he chose not to take it.
Okay.
What do you think about that?
I don't know. I mean, it's a little bit bizarre. He didn't even say at the end, like, sorry or...
It's just too quick, right? The map
No,
was still going.
at the end of the map.
I do wonder what happened there, because that totally looked like something happened. He just stopped moving.
It could be a usual thing that happens, and so DaHanG, they both know it. It might have a problem with the internet when they're practicing, obviously. DaHanG knows how to recognize the situation. But that was bizarre.
Somewhat. I mean, I guess that's maybe a loaded discussion, though, over what would you do in that situation if your opponent has some kind of DC.
Oh, man, stuff him.
I mean, I don't know what happened. Like, I'm saying DC as if that was one of the potential things. That could have been a mouse issue. You would have killed him.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
I mean, it's a tournament setting, right?
Otherwise, I just played dead, you know? I'm going to die. Oh, don't move.
Oh yeah, I'm alive. You can totally use that, yeah, for sure. But I guess there are people out there that there are definitely people that be like good guy DaHanG for sure. Because I mean, DaHanG he's a good guy. He is genuinely a nice guy.
But yeah, all right.
It's a very DaHanG thing to do. But
he lost.
It wasn't his.
He lost.
It wasn't his fault as well.
But he lost.
And no, I agree with you.
Oh, okay, cool.
I totally agree with you, and it wasn't his problem.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think, are we just jerks though?
I'm a dick.
Yeah, I'd just be like, it's just
Sucks
if he dies
to be you, Rapha.
That's pathetic. I guess maybe that's different though. That if it was like I don't know. I mean, we could talk about this for ages because ultimately that is going to be a 2-0
all right.
victory.
You're from fighting game roots, right? If someone lags out like that,
no, I take the game. I take the game.
You take the game,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
If someone pauses if I'm playing against someone and they pause by accident, no, I take the game all day, every day.
Exactly.
100%.
Yeah.
I've taken the game before.
Yeah.
And you just look their soul because you sit side by side, right? And when you take the game, you know that they're looking at you, and you know they're looking at you with a certain intent that's like, please don't take the game. And I'm literally just like, I'm taking the game, bro.
Cheeky
We're gonna
wink.
restart.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I mean, ultimately, we can theory craft what happened. I can assume something happened to Rapha there. He just stopped moving, and DaHanG let it rock. I mean, that did result in a map loss, though. But at the same time, DaHanG's a nice guy, right? And if he let it rock, then so be it.
Do you reckon if that was Stage 2 Finals Katowice, DaHanG lets it rock?
When Rapha had to face DaHanG and DaHanG needed to take a map off Rapha, did Rapha allow it? In Stage 1?
Is this a riddle?
I remember it was Stage 1. Do you remember it prevented DaHanG from being in the top 4?
Yeah.
That was a shot at revenge right there. Minor revenge.
See? I mean, obviously it doesn't mean anything to these two because they're so high up in the rankings.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, he's saving that. I think he's saving that card for when it really matters.
This is when, like, Rapha literally just did some next level dodging and nothing happened, and we've been theory crafting this. Like, we got mixed, we got played.
It's almost like he was practicing like the newbie dodge for people who in like free for all and stuff who just walk straight and you cannot rail them because you
just expect them to move.
You expect people to dodge. Like, why are you not dodging?
No, Rapha's the player that would definitely go, why would you do that? That is a very Rapha reaction. In many ways, actually, some of the frags that lead to kind of sequences that can not result in map losses, but Rapha can get fragged by people, and the number one thing you might hear is, why would you do that? Like, because he thinks about everything with such a scientific mind that if something kind of goes against the grain, he's like, it's not that he doesn't understand it, it's that he definitely would not have done it, so it can sometimes catch him off guard.
Because it is not the rational, logical thing to do.
Break the wheel.
Yeah.
Break the wheel. But yeah, we're going into another map now. Looks like it should be DaHanG's first blood here.
How did Rapha not die that first time?
Let's chase it down. Plenty of health to pick up at the very least. And now DaHanG. How does he recover? He's in a nice position for the Mega. Heavy's about to spawn as well. And I feel like, yeah, DaHanG. He's like, yeah, let him have it. I need to re-establish. And he's taken away 2 lights. So if he can get Rapha weak, there's not many places to run here. But
he is coming off much worse in that exchange.
Mouse shake as well, kind of like a whoo.
Ooh.
Shake that one off. Ooh, had the right idea with the rocket, but not quite the angle. Had the right idea, but it's going to be a 1-1 anyway. Rapha securing that one. Even split. And speaking of even split, there's going to be a 2-second delay now between Mega and Heavy, so not crazy extreme. Some opening damage, that's going to be really nice, especially as it was unreturned for Rapha. Yeah, slightly wrong prediction on where the rocket angle was there, but that one was on the money. And the patient super shotgun.
Ouch.
That's one of the things that separates top-level players, though, from, I suppose, the rest, is when you're looking for those calculated shots that really matter, like the rockets that hit the max damage, the super shotgun. And it's just having that patience to delay by that split second to guarantee it. You know, so many players will just reactionarily just shoot, 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 shoot. Just take that extra second to plan it, and you'll find it will almost always do more damage.
No, 100%. And that's actually the trademark of people who are good with rockets, is that they take that split second more patience to actually aim rather than just, you know, reaction.
Yeah, it's not prediction all the way either.
It's placement, and that's why Cypher was always better than most other players, because you could see the patience in his thought process in rocketing. We
see a lot of that from Kerr these days too.
Yeah, exactly.
Garpy was very similar as well. In the days of Garpy, miss you mate, but that's going to be 5-1 now. Rapha on the verge of running away with this. I say that lightly because we are on Corrupted Keep, but ooh, ouch. How about Rapha? Oh, he's doing so much damage. He does have protection. Definitely would have been sticking around that fight a little bit longer if he had more HP. He had a lot of armor, but not enough HP really to take that one.
Yeah. The passive region is actually particularly strong on a map like this where you're constantly fighting.
Ooh, that one hurts. For a bit of a delay there, but DaHanG, that's a tender fight. And DaHanG, it's so impossible for him really to try and deny that Heavy. He goes in and gets a Mega. The problem is, it's only giving him a little bit more health, on top of the fact that he still has no armor. So this should, by all accounts, be an easy frag for Rapha to just continue this rampage. There now is a really nice delay in between the two as well. This unfavorable spawn. What's DaHanG going to fight back with? Just to start a machine gun, that's all he's got. He's going to have an SSG now down the other end. I
like that play a lot, because what Rapha did is damaged him to a point where DaHanG had no other option but to back off. He had no items, no weapons, and then Rapha just goes, takes the map away.
Get psyched. DaHanG falls again. Kind of one-sided at this rate. Mega gets taken, but a running theme. No armor, Rapha. If there's room for him to retreat here, and then there's the natural building up of the stack.
Doesn't drop on that Mega, instead just does enough damage again to allow. Oh! Alright then!
Sugar. That was a lot of damage in a short space of time. DaHanG, even with the totem to top him up. He's not going to have the totem for a while though. Looks like he might have collected a little bit, but yeah, Mega's in play. Rapha just trying to get a little bit of leverage just for the extra vision, right? Just before. And now 8-1. We always talk about the snowball effect on Corrupted Keep, but genuinely I think this is starting to very quickly escape DaHanG. Rapha's just been on that kind of next level throughout the course of this. The dual wheel as well. Doesn't want to overstay his welcome here. 5-minute warning and lots of work for DaHanG to do. 7 frags to even even things out here. That's a lot of work against the likes of Rapha, and considering the maps have really kind of been in Rapha's favor from start to finish, it's kind of hard to think that DaHanG would be able to get back up on the horse in this regard.
It is quite a big lead, but as we rightly said, it's corrupt to keep, and there are 5 minutes. We've only just gone halfway through this map, but DaHanG has not shown really any life of showing to come back just yet.
So excellent LG, absolute deletion on the health. And once more, it's Rapha. When Rapha has a fight at range with DaHanG, Rapha always has a retreat. He always has loads of items to back off, and that's actually, you know, the amount of people when they watch Rapha stream and they ask him, they say, Rapha, how do you always make it look like you just survive forever?
Yeah, because he plans his fights. Yeah,
but he plans every single fight. Every time there's a fight, he's thinking about the map. What spawned
exactly.
here? Is there health? Is there armor?
It's such a difficult skill to do, but Rapha loves to fight on his terms. So he will only take a fight if he knows, unless he's been forced into it, if he knows what his options are, what his backout routes are, when the items are, etc. And as you rightly say, because then he fights, gets weak, and backs off to restacks. He's constantly refreshing his capabilities,
while the rest of the competition is left licking their wounds with either no answer to come back or very minimal, like
and
it's small health.
It's also a tact to try and fight in and around items, because then you are weak enough to take them, and you exactly that, you take them away from your opponents. So if you know your opponent's on the side of a map that has nothing to fall back on, you want to fight them then, because even if you don't kill them, you leave them weak enough to capitalize upon what you have restacked. So it's just one of those things you need to start think about if you want to get to this level of dueling.
And I mean, as we're kind of explaining this, we are seeing it put into practice. How many times is Rapha damaging DaHanG, and you're realistically looking at it like, well, what's DaHanG going to heal up with? What is there? What is around? But the answer is not much.
And this is why, on the defense, people like Cypher, this is the art, is you know Rapha wants to fight you. So you need to be the one that either can't be found or is in a position to deal more damage. So that it's such a back and forth, and this is why it's an incredibly difficult game to master.
The layers.
Yeah, exactly.
The layers upon layers. And another frag. Just DaHanG only able to secure one so far in 7.5 minutes.
Falls back onto 2 major items.
And this is a map win for Rapha. I mean, hate to pop off too early, but I mean, that's just 13-1 this late in the game. And with the momentum that Rapha's been facing, realistically, there's nothing really. We see DaHanG, the super shotgun, 2 of them. Double the destruction in that regard there. Rapha has had a dominant performance against DaHanG and just staying this undisputed of the Americas. And just no one can challenge him. That's just the way things are. And we're going to have to wait and see Poland, if the rest of the world can really bring it to the Professor. Maybe this is going to be Rapha's opportunity to become a stage champion, yet to win a Pro League stop. So
I mean, the unfortunate thing today is that it just did not look close. Like, Rapha was on it. Yes, last map was close, but if you look across the aggregate of all 3 games, Rapha was by far the better player today. But the question is, as you rightly said, he has not won a major event as of yet at Pro
Since
stage.
Quake Pro League, yeah. There's been a lot of redemption needed, I think, from Rapha. That it's kind of considered somewhat of a blow-up that he hasn't won, which is so weird to say that. It's just through his dominance.
He hasn't been close in relative terms for a Rapha level, right?
Yeah, the round robin style of QuakeCon kind of prevented him from being in the top side, and then yeah, just Italy was another thing. I believe it was Cypher, right? Cypher. That was a breakout performance. It almost kind of looked like Cypher. When you kind of look at his face, it almost like he couldn't believe it. It was just like the shrug of the shoulder, the handshake, and the Cypher's moving on. GG's. Really a breakout performance for him in Quake Champions, absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, at this point in time, there are a huge amount of talent in the European scene in particular. And unfortunately for Rapha, obviously he doesn't get any time to practice against them. And so it's always a what if, and you never know what the matchups are going to be like, and that works in everyone's favour, really.
I think should Rapha and DaHanG, or at the very least Rapha for sure, because he's known to be quite the boot camper. If he's able to start boot camping for Stage 2, I think there's going to be some most interesting training streams, that's for sure.
Yeah, no,
we're going to get somewhat of an early look at it.
You're right, and I imagine he would fly out pretty much after today to try and get on the wavelength of the Europeans because, as I said, there's incredible skill, but there's also a very different meta, very different play style. And if you're not used to that, it can definitely catch you off guard.
Rapha is going to take a convincing win versus DaHanG, making this the final series that we see played in Stage 2, the online weeklies. That was the final one, a dominant win versus DaHanG. I know DaHanG, I know they're buds and they're bros. DaHanG is probably not going to be feeling too great about that. I think that's some of the most one-sided matches we've seen.
I think that was the most one-sided matches we've seen today.
Oh, yeah. And that's not what I would have expected, for sure.
No, and that was like obviously one of the pinnacle matchups of the day where you expect a really, really close 2-1, particularly between 1 and 3 in the leaderboards. It shouldn't be like that. So it was partly DaHanG not playing as well as he probably could have. Rapha giving us a bit of a showcase. But ultimately, Rapha just tore one.
Well, that's going to be... What else really is there left to say about just the destruction that Rapha put forward? It's what he's been doing for 20 weeks of online pro leagues, and it looks like he's continuing to maintain that. Opens up the storyline, though, of we are a few weeks away from the Stage 2 finals, IEM in Poland. We get to see if the rest of the world can bring it to Rapha. Looks like the Americas have kind of struggled to do so. Is it going to be down to EU and CIS to put a stop to his reign of terror, or is Rapha going to finally get a massive performance in Pro League and become our Stage 2 champion? You know, Rapha is the most successful Quake Champions player that we've had in recent history. If you were to remove Pro League, you know, through the previous tournaments, but since Pro League has began, there's just been a ton of competition, and I'm really excited to see history unfold again.
Yeah. We will see. It's exciting because I definitely think Rapha's now even more refined than he was. I mean, the Pro League's done obviously a great job for him in his development as it has everyone else. So I'm sure the season finals are going to be an incredible matchup with some amazing storylines.
Tons of them. Absolutely loads of them, and it just you know, from a player to player basis, you've got, you know, the Kilson, who's trying to really take back the championship, Cooler, the reigning champion, Cypher, the redemption story of one of the most famous players that we've ever seen in Quake, Rapha, can he finally get a Quake Pro League victory? Underdog stories, can Wenger finally reach that next level? Can Razy get another major win added to his championship belt? Like, you know, underdog stories of other players to have these results that you may not expect. The rise of a player like Dramis, who was not really on anyone's radar for a while, but after the course of Stage 2, he's just looked better and better. What if Dramis pulls off some crazy upsets?
And you've not even mentioned Tox or Avec.
Nope. And it continues.
Yeah.
Base, for crying out loud.
Yeah, so it's the amount of talent playing at the level they are now, because that's the key, really. The level is unbelievable.
We're just going through the final set of replays here, and we have some time to kill while the lovely folks at production are now putting in the scores. We can look at the final standings and look at really where the competition is ramping up as we go in. But while we manage to get that done, let's just use this as an opportunity to remind everyone at home and inform really the breakdown of how Stage 2 finals. It's IEM Katowice. It's a couple of weeks' time. It's in, you know, the heart of Poland, really, or Katowice, I suppose. My geography's not so good, so I'm not going to make that much of a bold claim.
It's in Poland.
It's in Poland, so that we'll say that it's in Poland. But IEM, it's a historical esports event at this point. It is so embedded into the history of classic Quake, which has a lot of players excited to be there again after many years of not being there.
100%. I'm sure. I know everyone is amazingly excited. It's probably the legendary European esports event, one of the first big ones within the scene.
If you've never been there and you ever get to go to an IEM, like, if you're watching this and you're able to get to IEM Katowice, I can't recommend it enough. It is the scale of things. You know, I've been to a lot of live events, right, for a lot of different games, and IEM scale still blows me away. It is massive.
It is huge.
But I mean, it's just the venue is one thing, but the format is another. The first thing to go over, I've got my little notes here just to make sure I didn't forget. We have got the 4 players, of course. They played in their Challenger League. There was a big Challenger League playoff for the Americas for the most part, and then EU/CIS. I say for the most part because other territories were also allowed to compete in Challenger, like Australia. We had our 2 players from each side. We know who they're going to be. From the EU and CIS, it's Buckster, who is a nice little household name, making a return, and Sparty. speaking of household names, Sparty has the chance to come back and try and
Love
really
Sparty.
claw his position back. He was one of our players who unfortunately was relegated by CNZ. Now is his chance for revenge to see if he can get a spot back. On the America side, Sib and Zanaku. So Sib, another player with a chance to get a position back, and Zanaku is another player to potentially be new to Pro League, the same way as Buckster. Oh yeah, that is a good point. Yeah, there's the opportunity for the rematch between Sparty and CNZ as well. If they play each other again, that's going to be a sight to see. And that is just the relegations, though. The relegation will be a single elim format. But what's worth mentioning is a change to the format. The Stage 2 finals bracket is going to be double elimination. Double elimination bracket, giving players 2 chances in tournament. You have that double life.
I like that.
We haven't seen double elim in Quake for quite a while. I believe not since surely it was the Italian Esports Open a couple of years ago.
So.
I think that's the last time we had
double
elim.
That was double elim, and it always generates some amazing storylines because there's someone that's going to come through with a great redemption arc throughout the event. So,
and if someone's able to win through the lower bracket, then that's a lot of work.
Yeah,
because it's a Shark Tank anyway, and then when you're on your last tournament life, it's the pressure, the stress,
brings
who
out the
rises
best
to
in
the
some
occasion.
people,
Oh yeah, it does bring people out. Some people really come alive when the pressure's on.
Yeah.
We've seen that time and time again. But overall, I mean, I think we're just excited to see it. And the seeding too, top 8 players on the leaderboard. They do get that qualifier through to the second stage of that bracket at the same time. So there are players, if you're within that top 8, congratulations. We'll be able to check out the top 8 leaderboard very soon. Obviously, we've had a day full of games, so we'll consult that at the end of day when it's finally being put in there. The stats are being uploaded by production as we speak. But overall, there's going to be a few changes to the way the Stage 2 finals work compared to Stage 1. Overall, though, more games. You guys get to see more, and I'm sure you're never going to say no to that with the caliber of players that are going to be there. IEM, historical to Quake. It's just a great overall package, I think, and I think a lot of people are excited for it.
It's the making of a good tournament. A great tournament.
How can you go wrong?
You never know.
I mean, for me, though, the big thing is the storylines.
Yes,
it's
sure.
just, you could list every single player and say why them doing well would be just a big deal. Because we've had 20 weeks of individual players. You know, you can see
but
their
it all
personal
comes down
journey.
to one moment.
It does.
So 20 weeks could be almost irrelevant if you're not performing on that final day.
And that's what's scary. The second you have that LAN setting where you're offline and everyone's on that kind of even playing field, it's the pressure to perform the best you have on the most important day. How many players in any game they'll practice the best. They practice, they're looking better than ever, and then on the day they just don't. Something just is not clicking, and all that practice is out the window.
Absolutely.
Right, I believe we should have an updated list of the players. So we can see the top 8. There's Rapha, Kilson, Razy, DaHanG, Wenger, Cooler, Toxic, and Cygib. 1 point between Cygib and Base! And Cypher, in fact. Oh man, that's a feels bad
and
right
Toxic.
there. Oh yeah, that's true. That's true.
Oof.
Oh my god, the final day. The final day, ZSX.
I mean, look how well Cypher's done to get up to 10th. Considering.
We have to give a special shout to Cypher for this. The fact that he came in really late. You know, he was a late bloomer. He came into Pro League from Stage 2, obviously relegating Garpy in what was already a really close, like last minute scenario where Cypher, he was inches away from not even being in this position. But has he taken that with both hands? Yes, he has. Like, it's an incredible journey for Cypher so far.
Well, considering I think he lost 2-1 to Wenger today, or was it 3-0?
Oh, I believe it was. Yeah, it was a 2-1. It was close.
So if he took one more map against Wenger, he would have gone top 8.
Hindsight is a horrendous thing when you're on the final week, isn't it?
Yes,
it 100%. And then our relegated players, Waz and Genic on the America side, and then Hron and CNZ. CNZ, I mean, he gave it a good go. Again, as a player like Cypher, who came in at Stage 2, he's actually done incredibly well. I personally feel like simply him coming in for Stage 2 is one of the main reasons he is up for relegation again. But I have absolute faith. I mean, come on, he relegated Sparty, and now there's a chance for Sparty and him to go head-to-head again.
Yeah.
I have confidence that I don't think CNZ is going to get relegated. I think he's been playing very, very solid.
I think he's been unfortunate. Yeah, he came in late, obviously.
He's talented, though, for sure.
Yeah, he's very talented. And he came in quickly, and I think he dropped off a little bit. I remember him 3-0ing base pretty much in the first week. And ever since then, it was kind of a bit of hit or miss. But he's an exceptionally talented player, and he would definitely give Sparty a good run for his money.
But yeah, coming down into that top 8, they are the players that will get that next stage bye. Won't necessarily, they're just qualifying straight to it, really. So well done to them for being able to play and maintain their dominance. Ultimately, it's kind of a reward for them.
Yep.
There are extra elements to that, though. You know, one of them is less opportunities to play in the bracket beforehand. So some players say they can sometimes feel a bit rusty, so they have to make sure they've got their practice on deck. And even if they're not in the bracket, you know, one would assume there'll be practice stations. There normally is at an event like that.
Yep.
So just fingers crossed. We'll keep everything crossed. But yeah, fundamentally, I'm really excited for the event. There's a lot of Quake coming.
Couldn't tell.
And it's going to be, it's just going to be good. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed what we've had so far. It's crazy to think that this is online week 20. That we've had this many already. It feels like Quake Pro League only recently begun, and here we are, like almost like smack bang halfway through.
It's been a good ride.
And you guys have been with us every step of the way. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for sticking with us all this way. We are a couple of weeks away now from IEM Katowice in Poland, the Stage 2 finals for the Quake Pro League. And I do believe that is time for us to head out of here. My name is Ketchup, and I've been joined by the ever so talented ZSX, bringing that top tier knowledge as always. It's always really nice having you here, just for that like player side, right? As someone who just used to play with these dudes all the time, just having that, what would you do in that position? It's nice and informative.
Appreciate it, man. It's fun.
It's a nice dynamic, I think. But I mean, fundamentally, it's been good. It's been fun, man. What can I say? I'm tired. I'm sappy. Traffic was a nightmare getting here. Trains were dead.
I
Buses.
love you too.
Yeah, I love you, mate. I love you. And well, I guess we'll see you guys in due time. One last thank you so much to the production team behind the scenes, doing all the hard work and making the show happen. And thank you very much to id Software and Bethesda. Thank you for watching. Much love, and we'll see you at the Stage 2 finals. Take care.